I basically had engineered my life so I could do whatever I want, wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted, which sounds really cool. But then, like, I didn't really have good structure in place from a work discipline standpoint. And so that meant, like, I'd always sort of be half on, even if I wasn't doing anything. And so I was feeling like I wasn't necessarily working a lot on it, but I could never, like, clear my head and just, like, not think of it either. And so I was, like, in this weird in-between spot where it was systemized enough to run, but it wasn't, like, completely off my, like, it wasn't clearing up my desk space.
This is an intro. Intro. Hustle and Flowchart with your boy, my boy, Matt Wolf and Joe Fear. Hey, go time.
Welcome back to the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. I am your host, Matt Wolf, with Joe Fear, also your host.
I am your also host. Yeah. And we're today attempting the impossible.
That was my DJ voice.
I understand.
Yeah, I just need a wow thing.
We need to get a button or something, like a little sound pad.
Yeah.
Get that Rodecaster Pro. That's what we need.
That's what we need.
Come on. I could be like DJing over here spinning that.
I keep on meaning to buy one of those.
Well, we're going to do that later today. Okay. All right, so we're attempting the impossible.
Yes.
With Joel Runyon.
Doing an intro in under 3 minutes.
That too. All right. So Joel Runyon is on the podcast with us today. This is a long time coming. The reason why I said impossible is he is the founder of Impossible. It's actually this lifestyle brand, fitness brand, but it's basically the whole thing is push your limits, do cool stuff, do stuff that just freaks the hell out of you.
Yeah.
And basically, push yourself to a limit that you can the world opens up in so many ways.
Yeah. And he's running this Impossible brand while also running multiple SaaS companies. He's got a meal plan company. Mm-hmm. He's got a fitness app company. He's got a productivity app company. He works with a company that sells sugar-free electrolyte drinks, like sports drinks kind of things. He's running multiple companies while running this Impossible lifestyle brand and doing things like running 7 marathons, ultra marathons in 7 countries.
And ultra marathons, for you that if you guys don't know, they're like basically 100-mile runs. Yeah. So that's just a tiny little run.
Yeah. And he did 7 of them on 7 different continents.
And he built 7 schools.
Yes.
That's part of that 7-7-7 thing. So like, dude just takes everything to the limit. And it's very fascinating. A lot of the structure and the way that we partner with folks and really collaborate and get equity, get rev share, do deals. It's the stuff we chatted with Roland Frazier, Jay Abraham, Rich Sheffrin, Shramka. I mean, like deal making.
Yeah.
Joel has wrapped up his interesting life, adventure life, but with like deal making to support everything. So super cool. Let's get into it. Get the notes. hustleandflowchart.com/comp.
Yep.
It's hustleandflowchart.com/comp. 2 weeks to get them for free. We took a bunch of notes for you.
Ahrefs. Ahrefs is our favorite SEO tool. Used it long before they were a sponsor, but now they're a sponsor, and we love it even more because they're a sponsor. No, I'm just kidding. We love it. We loved it just as much back then.
I think you should go check out Ahrefs. Typically, we like to think of a cool tutorial and a strategy and all that. I don't think we have a specific one right now, unless you have one. But
no, but on the next one, I will.
Okay. We are recording one more later today. But this is just one of those tools that any time someone's talking about SEO or content marketing or traffic, they mention Ahrefs.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to leave it at that. It speaks for itself. It's a $7 7-day trial at ahrefs.com. Ahrefs. Joel, we're rolling. How you doing, dude?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, we're saying it's a long time coming too. I think almost 2 years, maybe a year and a half or so.
Was that really 2 years ago?
It's Chicago? A while ago. Yeah.
It was the fall. I think it was the fall before I came out here. Maybe.
I
think so. It was
about 2 years ago.
Probably 2 years.
Yep. Got to give a shout out to Brad Costanzo, mutual buddy. And we had a dinner. It was at Capitol Grill. It was like a Perry Marshall event we were all at, and you were. I don't think you were at the event, right? You were just kind of hanging around.
No, I just crashed the steakhouse dinner. Or something like that.
Left an impact, man.
But there's a full Perry Marshall backstory and my origin story at some point we could talk about if you want to. But Perry got me kind of kicked off on things. So
do a quick little.
He throws an event.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it, because where we usually start these podcasts is your backstory, so this is as good of a backstory as any.
Perry's become a buddy of ours now too, and he's been on the show a couple times. So, what's your Perry story, man?
Yeah, so the backstory is that I started my company Impossible basically 9 months out of graduating college. I'd graduated college, done all the things you're supposed to do. And I graduated in the middle of like the Great Recession or whatever. And so all these places, like I did all the things you're supposed to do, take a bunch of classes, get a great GPA, learn another language, do a semester abroad, play college sports. And I was kind of following the normal script that everybody had laid out for them. And then the next step in that script was just get a job, right? And there were no jobs to be had. And so I was basically trying and applying for like 9 months to a whole bunch of jobs, from like my A choices to B choices to like Starbucks, Target, anything I could get my hands on. Couldn't get a call back from Starbucks. And so ended up doing like a 3 to 6 week stint with UPS during seasonal.
You get that seasonal pay, huh?
Yeah, around Christmas in Chicago. So it's like freezing cold, icy sidewalks, chased by dogs, the whole shebang. Get laid off after that. And, like right around Christmas, and I'm sitting there 9 months after school, graduated, like I did all the things you're supposed to do. And this is where I'm at. Like, this is what I have to show for it. And, I want to do all these different things, but they all seemed impossible. And so, I felt pretty bad for myself, watched a bunch of shows on Netflix, kind of distract myself, and like watched all these people online doing really interesting things about like traveling the world. One of my friends was going to every country in the world. The other one quit his job and moved to Thailand, and I couldn't even get a normal job. And so I felt bad for myself for a long time. And then basically I went through my list and I was like, there's reasons why I can't get a job. There's reasons why I can't start a business. There's reasons I can't travel the world. But one of the things on my list was run a triathlon. And so that was kind of the breaking point for me. Was like, well, I think I can do that. And so the whole thing was I trained for this thing. I did it. And I realized like, oh, you spent so much time telling yourself that this was impossible and you just did it. If that's true, what else could you do? And so then I was like, well, I still can't get a job anywhere. I have really no skills, but I'm interested in the internet. I think it's going to be big. And I'm interested in marketing. And so I started like playing around with a couple of those different things. And somehow, I don't know how, but I found Perry Marshall talking about internet marketing. I found this other job that I was taking, like basically like internal level pay to like, I'm going to learn internet marketing.
Connect and learn. And
whatever. And so I saw Perry was doing one of his Hawaii events like 10 years ago or something like that. And he was hosting this big mastermind out in Maui. And it was like $5,000 to attend the event. And you had to be spending like $5,000 a month in paid spend. And to me, that was like, oh my God, that's so much money. And so I think I cold tweeted him and I was like, hey, he was trying to like, do his last push like the week before the event. Like, hey, you could do a last minute sign up. I'm like, Harry, do not have any money, but if you've got space and need help, like I'm a college kid, like willing to hustle, do whatever. And he ends up like emailing me back and he's like, dude, if you can get out here by like, I think I tweeted him like a Tuesday. He emailed me back like a Wednesday. And he's like, if you could be out here by like Friday, you can come to the event. And so then I'm like, looking at like, mileage points and all this other stuff, trying to get out. How do I get to Hawaii
for nothing? Basically
48 hours, 48 hours notice. But end up going out there, meeting all these people that are like, I know a lot of them now, and they're friends, but like at the time it was just like a whole different level of people than I'd really, been around for. And so, I did that with that event. I did that with like 2 more Perry events. He did one in London I helped out with. And we actually had the founders of FanDuel, which is like, so they
Nigel Eccles, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's been on the show once. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was in Perry's world or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, so we're doing this betting thing in the UK. We're thinking about doing football in the, I'm like, you're onto something.
Yeah, there's something there.
It's tiny, but
So like I said, long story short, I ended up doing a couple different events, going to Perry's events, and especially early on, Perry was one of those people that was like very, very helpful and kind of jump starting, accelerating my whole interest in the internet space, and also realizing like not just like you don't have to work for someone else your whole life, but also like getting around people who are just I was completely out of my league for the first couple of years, and that's just that's how I learned everything that I learned was just being a basically taking everything in through a fire hose. And
no, that's super cool.
So that's my Perry story. Thank you, Perry. And he's been super helpful. So anytime he has an event, I'm like, okay, let me see if I can make it.
You linger around. And
well, I mean, there's a great lesson there too. Like that's kind of a way to work your way into some of those types of events. Is how can I add value if I can't, pay to get in the event?
And also took it as like you're finding these like catalyst events like that triathlon to get you traveling, and then the Perry thing. You reached out to Perry and he put your ass on the line. He said, "You got 2 days, boy. Get out here to Hawaii." And it's like that kicks off this adventure for you. Does that show up in other places too? Kind of like that.
Well, I think Perry gave me a piece of advice. He said something like, he's like the best way to like start making your first money on this is like. Figure out someone's problem, put your balls on the line and figure it out. Like, and so he basically kind of incepted this idea that you just like start accepting challenges that like you don't think you can do or you don't even know. Like I didn't really think through it like that at the time, but it's basically just been like, if someone had a job to do, I'd just be like, yes, I'll do it. And I had no clue how to do it, but I was like, I really gonna hope I figure this out, or my balls are on the line, right? Yeah. So, and so that was, I think, that first thing with Perry was really just like I've always been a little bit like, I'm open to spontaneity and just going out and doing stuff, but like, I think being willing to put your neck out there are all the things where there's a significant probability that I'll fail are typically the things that take me the next level up. And so, showing up as like a 22-year-old college kid at like this like mastermind event in Hawaii that I did not belong at. And like, I stayed in like a hostel, like everybody else is at like these 5-star hotels. I'm like at this like dirty hostel in Maui. And like, took a taxi to like the place or whatever. It's like, I did not belong there, but I just like sat around people and like listened and then like tried to ask a question that wasn't too stupid. All of those situations where I've just like, I've taken that leap or I've put my neck out or I've said like, I actually don't know if I can do this. But I set out to do it anyways. Like I can, like, those are the ones where I find I have the most growth. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So how did the Impossible brand come to be? Because it sounds like there's like an obvious sort of evolution from what you just said and that branding.
Yeah. So it started like what I just said, it feels like everything felt impossible. And it was the statement that like, you can't do this. This stuff is for other people, but you're going to like, maybe get this job at UPS and like sling packages. And that's what you're going to do. And, what it really turned into was, I did this triathlon and I realized like you spent, this was literally the words that came to me at the end of the race. Like you spent so long telling yourself this was impossible and you just did it. If that's true, like what else could you do? And so that changed things for me. It changed impossible from being this like statement into, I say, impossible is not a statement, it's a challenge. And so a lot of people think, like, oh, I can't do that. That's the end of the road. But now it's like, oh, that seems impossible. That's the thing you probably should be doing. And if it's, and people always say like, growth begins at the edge of your comfort zone or whatever. But like I think to another level, even with impossible, it's like the stuff that like actually scares you to the point where you're like going to piss your pants. Like that's the stuff. It's not like, oh, like a 5K is hard, like really pushing yourself beyond what you can even conceive of is kind of where you should be aiming yourself. And, if I would have told myself 10 years ago or whatever, that like, I'd have done all these ultra marathons and we've raised this money and we've started these businesses, I'd be like, that's ridiculous. But like, I started out with like, the most immediate thing that seemed ridiculous to me, and that was an indoor triathlon in the west suburbs of Chicago, and it started there, and then it snowballed, and so that's where Impossible started, and it's kind of grown into, like you said, it started off as a personal blog to document my life and like try to be a challenge to do something more interesting with my life, and then it's kind of grown into a community and a brand, and we have apparel, and we're going to be launching some products later this year. But it's kind of snowballed beyond just Joel's personal challenge to get out of his parents' basement.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I know Matt and I recognize. So before we even knew who Joel is, we saw the Impossible brand. So definitely the brand appears to be bigger than you, at least in the online sphere. And I'm sure that's kind of somewhat engineered. But I know you do a lot of other stuff as well, and outside of Impossible, it's kind of brought you all these different opportunities and probably putting yourself out in this different scenarios. Without getting like super deep on all of these different tangents, because I know like we're talking, it can take all day. Is there like a quick hit list you can just give us of like the craziest stuff you've done, and then we can kind of talk about the business that's happening that supports this and keeps you pushing?
Yeah, I mean, we can do the quickest of like adventure stuff right now. So probably the thing that people are most recognizable with is the 777 project, where I ran 7 ultramarathons on 7 continents, and we built 7 schools with Pencils of Promise, and we raised $193,000. We did the 7th school with Jesse Itzler, if you know Jesse. And I actually just got the plaque from the other, like the 7th school. Like we did this, this is a couple years ago, we finished it, but there's a delay on the school builds and everything, and the vacations and with Corona and all the stuff. Like, so I just got the plaque from like the last school build the other day. And so that was a big project. At the time, I think I was the youngest person to run an ultramarathon on every continent. I think there's someone challenging that right now. I don't know if they've done it, but like good for them.
Yeah, that's fine.
So that would be the biggest thing. Scaling from I'd never run a 5K before I did that indoor triathlon, and then basically scaled up from indoor triathlon, sprint, Olympic, half Ironman, marathons, ultra marathons. At this point, we've raised, $250,000, I think, for different charitable causes. We have a Kiva lending team. And then we've done other things. Like I had an event this summer where we hosted like the longest day race. And it was on the longest day of the year. You run up from sun up to sundown. And we had like 25 people from around the world basically run around a track until you count your laps, for however long the sun is up in whatever part of the world you're in. And so in Austin, it was like some 14 hours or so. And so, so I've done stuff like that. We've taken people like, we talk about actually pushing yourself, doing stuff that scares you. We've taken, 50 people skydiving, for different events. We've taken like, some 60 people like bungee jumping. People talk about like, take the leap, or like, no, actually like take the leap, like
let's do it together.
And that's kind of the goal of Impossible, is like a lot of times people talk about these things and they're ethereal, or they're like emotionally difficult, but I really like challenging people to do physically difficult things because it gives you reference points for what your body feels versus what it's capable of. And it reminds you that you can do like manual overrides in your mind way more often than you think you can. And so if you can do those, and you can point to those physical challenges, like, hey, I was at mile 50 in Antarctica and I wanted to give up and go home, I can remind myself that like, yeah, I was in a lot of pain and I wanted to quit, but I was in Antarctica. Like, I'm not going home. Like, it's not, I didn't come all this way to go home. And so like when you have other things come up in business or work or whatever, like you have those mental reference points that you can point back to and be like, yeah, like, is this as bad as that was? And you're like, no. And you're like, oh, I survived that. I finished that. I finished, I followed through. And so then it gives you context, gives you perspective for all these other things in your life. And it makes it easier to do, like you're dealing with specific things in business. It makes it easier to get through those things when you realize like, oh, I'm stronger than my mind wants me to think I am sometimes.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of us probably need that shake, especially since we're just like living in our offices or at home right now. It's like, what physical thing, even like in your neighborhood, just go freaking wind sprint some hills or something. Go on a bike ride up a crazy hill that you didn't think possible. Whatever.
We had that for the longest day race. Like you're supposed to go out and find a track, and we had some people that just be like, I don't have a track, but I'm just gonna run around my neighborhood for the entire day. And their neighbors are just like, what is wrong with these people?
There goes Matt again. He looks like he hurts a lot.
I do hurt a lot.
So on the back of all that stuff, and this is what fascinated Matt and I, like when we first met you, you're like, wait, hold on. You have a bunch of businesses like happening outside of Impossible, outside of all the crazy adventures you're on as well doing.
Yeah. I feel like when we were talking to you over dinner, the thing that I was like so fascinated by was you have all of these companies, but then when we started kind of talking about your lifestyle, it didn't sound like you were working too hard on any of them. I mean, that might just be my perception, but it feels like in a good way, right? Like they're very well systematized. You've got good people running them. Like it kind of felt like you've figured out a good way to have this lifestyle while all these other businesses are still successful.
Well, I could give you an update a couple of years after that. So
Please.
I would say it's accurate. Like I wasn't working that hard when I saw you guys on those businesses. And there's good and bad parts to that. Like I had kind of, basically engineered my life to do that. And there's pluses and minuses. Pluses are like a lot of adventure, a lot of fun, a lot of travel. I think I went to like some 48 countries or something like that. Had a really, really good time. The downsides was like, I basically had engineered my life so I could do whatever I want, wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted, which sounds really cool. But then like, I didn't really have good structure in place from a work discipline standpoint. And so that meant like, I'd always sort of be half on, even if I wasn't doing anything. And so I was feeling like I wasn't necessarily working a lot on it, but I was always like, there's always like a decent amount of, I could never like clear my head and just like not think of it either. And so I was like in this weird in between spot where it was systemized enough to run, but it wasn't like completely off my, like it wasn't clearing up my desk space. And so one of the things I think right after I saw you guys was I ended up like making a big change for me, which is I was like pseudo nomadic for, a couple of years. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to plant myself in Austin and I'm going to be in Austin for like a minute. And what that's allowed me to do is actually improve some of the systems in the business. So it's been a little bit like, I would say like, I actually wrote about this. I sacrificed a little bit of like adventure and excitement to really, really, really nail the systems now where I can actually not think about stuff and I can actually like pull focus onto other things or the companies I advise or the new stuff we're rolling out at Impossible versus being like, okay, yeah, I have like this low grade level of stress in the background that like I'm kind of blocking out, but like it's bubbling up every once in a while.
Oh yeah.
And so that's one of the things that like, I figured out the travel and running, like keeping a business, the momentum of a business going. But I would say it was hard for me to grow a business while I was doing that. Like there's only so much, like, there's like the good, cheap, fast Venn diagram where it's like you to pick two.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's something like that with like travel, running a business and like growing the business. It was hard for me to do all three at once. Like I could put on cruise control and keep going and have a really good time, but it was hard for me to like actively like accelerate growth. And so I had to kind of pull back a little bit on that in order to, push on the growth of the companies, but it's been a good decision. And then it actually allows me to, I just spent a month in Colorado and do these like mini adventures in a little bit more focused way where I'm not always all consumed by work all the time. Even when I'm like on a boat at Grayshow. Like, this should be fun.
Yeah.
Like thinking about like, sales figures in the back of my head. I'm like,
Well,
so,
just think everyone has that kind of low grade stress, but some people it's way higher. But I could see if it's like a perpetual low grade stress, but you're like trying to be in the moment and wherever you're at, you're just like, can't shake this thing. I could see where, like it's actually it's super impressive that you keep the momentum, but the scaling, I could see that being a huge issue, especially now the role you're in. You're an advisor of multiple companies, and it sounds like you're like the growth guy for a lot of those, right? Like you kind of strategize on a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've found an interesting, a few years back I did the scaling for Spot Hero, which is a parking reservation company. Their tech office was based out of San Diego for a little bit, but I think they reconsolidated to Chicago. But I did their scaling from like seed round to like Series B, and like scaled them out to like 6 cities. Wow. And then recently I've gotten a lot more opportunities with different early stage startups, which basically are looking for traction and initial growth. I always tell companies, I'm like, I'm not like the guy that's going to be around when you have like hundreds of employees, just because I just don't like those types of environments as much. But like when I can, put my thumb on the scale and have a specific impact. I've done that with, a couple CPG companies, a productivity company, and those opportunities seem to keep coming in. So it's been something that is fun to be able to have high leverage impacts on larger boats, because all of my stuff has been bootstrapped. And so I take a bootstrap mentality with a venture-backed budget, and you can do some damage. And it feels like you're playing a little bit of a different game than some of these other types of growth people.
Yeah. So when you do come into some of these companies and you are advising for them, like what kind of things are you doing for them? Like what sort of levers are you pulling for growth?
So everyone is different. So like I try to, the way I look at a lot of things that I do is, this is actually something Perry taught me, was like, we'll do a lot of, it depends on the scale, right? So like one company, so Element, I had like a small investment in, and then like I knew the founding team, and they just wanted to like scale up from an influencer and connection standpoint. And so I'm doing some like, pretty high leverage connecting with, different people I know in the health and fitness space, which is, pretty easy. But like, again, it's a high leverage thing where I've got 10 years of these, relationships and connections and work that I've been doing myself. And it's easier to deploy it than is for them to scale up someone full-time on it. So that's like what I'm doing for them. For someone like Woven, I basically, I was a user of their app. Woven is a calendar, woven.com. It's a calendar and scheduling app. And this is actually the app I use to get structure in my life, because I came back from traveling all over the place and I was like, my life's a mess. I feel like I'm working all the time, but I'm not getting anything done. And so Woven was the app that I was like, okay, I'm gonna start like time blocking my week. I'm gonna plan out what I'm doing. I'm gonna get like, see if I'm actually staying close to, what I'm getting done. If I'm doing the things I say I want to do. And I started using this thing. I was like, this is a pretty powerful app. You guys have built a ton of functionality into it, and you have like no users. And so like, a lot of my stuff is just like cold pitches. So I cold pitched the founder, and Tim is the ex-CIO of Facebook, as it turns out, which I didn't realize. But I was like, hey guys, you guys seem like you need help. And so I do a discovery process, with a few different startups or whatever, but it's like, I'll come out for a couple days, and then like, I'll supervise your growth strategy for the next 90. And then that's continued to kind of grow and evolve. And that's a little bit more hands-on now. But again, it's architecting, their growth strategy. And a lot of them is taking these bootstrap, how I would scale my companies basically to these guys with, raising $5, $10, $20 million or whatever. You have a lot bigger budgets to play with, and, start directing things. And so it's fun to have impact at that level of scale. And then also, build out an advisory portfolio, build out an investment portfolio that way.
Yeah.
Versus just being like, I hope I'm going to pick the next Uber, like it's nice to pick stuff that like, you're like, I know this is going to be successful because I'm going to make it successful.
Yeah. Now, are these companies, are they actually like spitting off revenue back to you, or is it stuff where it's kind of still early and you're advising, but you're going to, the big paydays down the road?
Depends on the type of company typically, but it's usually some sort of like there's enough cash that it covers my time, whatever that looks like. And then, but I try to take as much as I can in equity just because I think it's more of an interesting play. Like, one of the phrases, I don't know if it's Taylor Pearson, but he's always says like play long-term games with long-term people. And that's what I'm interested in. And so, if you can get an outsized, especially, with the companies that we've worked with, like you can put a pin in the graph on, when we started the engagement, and there's almost always, a massive spike afterwards. And so if I could take an equity valuation at that pre-spike number, and then I can, make the spike happen, it makes way more sense for me.
Yeah, no, it's the long term, and that's what we were kind of chatting before the call here too. Is deal flow is so magical if you could set yourself up for deal flow, or if you just reach out to the right people and just put your balls on the line, and just like that's also another way. It's magical that like the collaborations. I feel like there's the growth or the scalability of an operation can just be much better. And then, like you said, if you have a hand in it from day one, why not get the equity, get the long term payout?
It's also interesting when you look at like how a lot of my network here in Austin are, I have several friends that have raised money or whatever, but a huge number of them are either bootstrapped or they're like they start off a Kickstarter or something like that, but they've been like cash flow positive companies from day one. And it's really interesting to see how companies try to grow if they're trying to do that versus if they're trying to just like if they're playing the raise money to raise money to raise money to raise money game, which is like a viable game, but like it's a very different strategy. And so it's just interesting to see the types of impact that like I've talked with a couple friends before. It's like I feel like I'm like a feral animal sometimes, and like really nice and like just like being a bootstrapped entrepreneur, you just have to like claw tooth and nail to like survive, and it just like like you got like snaggletooth and like
patchwork,
like
whatever random stuff.
Your fur's all messed up or whatever. Like it's not a pretty picture, but like you're gonna survive and you're gonna be like you're gonna be good. And then you like you go into some of these companies or whatever, and they're like very like buttoned down, and they're very like they remind me of my old an old job I used to have back in the day or whatever. And it's just like it's a different environment, and it's fine, but it's interesting. To see how the difference is.
I'm kind of curious because you mentioned something about like your when you have like a discovery call or meeting or whatever about the growth, and if you want to go down this lane, I'm thinking like if you could walk us through your thought pattern of like how do you identify like as a startup, or it could be someone listening that's bootstrapping themselves, like are there certain things you look at or you identify as opportunities where you build a plan from there? Like, can you walk us through your thought pattern?
Yeah, so I try to avoid bootstrappers because they don't have money.
Well, I mean, just to relate it to folks who are listening or bootstrapping.
Yeah. So if you're trying to identify opportunities, is what you're trying to say. Okay.
Yeah, and your process for basically scaling these companies you're working with.
Yeah. So actually, I would still say the same thing. Like I avoid bootstrappers because they don't have any money. So like it depends on what you want, right? Like if you want an equity stake and you're like going after like an early stage company and they're bootstrapped about it. If you're an entrepreneur, it may make sense just to start your own thing. Like if you're going to do something for someone else, but you're only going to get 50% equity and they're not going to pay you a bunch, like, you might be better off doing your own thing. If you're looking for cash, or you're looking for like cash plus an equity play, which is like not a bad way to do it, especially if you can do it on performance. I basically look at all the apps that I use. I'm pretty early adopter on a bunch of stuff. I try a whole bunch of different things, and I'm I feel like my friends find out about stuff way sooner than I do, but then I just realized my friends are like uber early adopters. And so I'm like still in the early adoption cohort. So like I started to identify that like I actually find stuff when like after my friends have kind of like played around with it and made sure it's not broken, I'm late enough to the game that like some of the vetting has already happened, but like there's still a decision point on whether this thing is going to be successful or not.
You're like crowdsourcing kind of your due diligence on the thing.
Yeah. And so then I'm able to come in and, you know, like a lot of these rounds are like, you know, relatively public. So you know, if a company has raised a seed round or an A round or, you know, where they're standing there. And then you can come in, you could say like the due diligence and discovery thing is actually something I took from Perry again, was we used to go out and we try to sell all these people all the time on like, hey, will you work with us? Here's our plan. And we'd give them it all for free and they wouldn't care at all. And in fact, they just like, they want an RFP and then they're going to compare it to other RFPs and they want the cheapest RFP and you're doing all this work to even do the RFP. And then if it like a lot of them wouldn't even come out good because you didn't have enough time because you have to do 20 of them because you might get 5 of them or something like that. So, so flipped it and we do a discovery process. So I don't know if your listeners are familiar with that. It's basically like, hey, I'll do a bunch of like research for you. Like I'm familiar with your company. I know what you guys are doing. Here's a bunch of really things. I basically do a cold read and be like, here's all the things you're doing wrong. And some people don't like it. Some people get really mad at me. I've gotten a few people, you know, come back at me hard, but a lot of people are like, oh my, like, you know me better than, you know, all the things that my investors are saying, or, you know, like, these are all the things that like they knew were wrong with their company, but they didn't want to verbalize.
Oh yeah.
And so like I come in and I'm relatively aggressive. I'm like, hey, here's all the things you're doing wrong. If you want to do a discovery process, I can go into more details on all the things you're doing wrong and how we're going to fix them. And you're going to walk out with a plan to execute with your current team and like a supervisory, like how we're going to like get this boat, you know, back on the right track. And so, like I'll typically do that. I can play around with the timing and different companies want different things. So I'm relatively flexible, but I tried to propose it in a way that's like a discovery process is a 2-day thing. And then it's a 90-day contract after that. And there's a renewal process after that. But that's the way I set mine up just because it's repeatable. People understand it. It's I'm tied in. Like it's not just I'm coming in, giving a talk and then bouncing. Like I'm tied in for the 90 days, and you can typically start to see some sort of improvement in 90 days. Like if you don't see anything, like probably wasn't worth it. But like everyone we've seen at 90 days has been like, how do we do more? Like this is the best investment we've made so far. How do we keep doing this? And so that's how I structure it. But I've seen really, really good results on that. I think most people, especially early stage startups, they want the feedback that they're getting, and they want harsher feedback than they get sometimes. And the only people that will give it to them are investors, and investors aren't always that helpful. Like investors, depending on where you get your money from, investors could be really helpful, but they could just be like, just go faster, just grow it. Yeah. Just we own you now. Do the thing that we told you to, and they're not actually helping you out. So there's it's kind of a harsh but compassionate thing. It's like, hey, you don't realize it right now, but you're drowning, and I'm the guy with the life, life rafter, whatever you want to call it.
I'm trying to save you. Don't be, like this is harsh shit right here, but take it for what it's worth.
Don't fight the lifeguard, right? Like
exactly.
Let me help you out. So that's worked out pretty well, and it's one of those things. Like the first couple ones, the hardest, and then like after that, like people see that you did something with this company or they want your time here or there, and it becomes a little bit easier to snowball because
And you initiate those discovery calls, so you'll reach out to them, say, let's get on a call, and then you'll basically tell them all the stuff they're doing wrong, or how do you initially make contact?
So I've done a bunch of cold stuff. Like I do a lot. I think cold emails and cold phone calls. Like I mean, I cold tweeted Perry Marshall, and that like how my career got started. I cold emailed Woven when I started doing stuff with them. The Element stuff was a little different because they knew I'd been doing other things with other companies, and I had a pre-existing relationship, and they had a clear idea of exactly the help they needed. And then I find other stuff again starts to if I don't have any previous relationships, I just cold email. If I have existing relationships or they've seen my work in other spots, it tends to be just like informal discussions that evolve out of the relationship after, meeting and connecting and podcasting and, sharing my story with people over like the last 10 years. So, there's we talked about, some of the non-explicit value that you get out of publishing, podcasting, and blogging.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the things is like, I've had people ask me, for help in their business just because they think I'm interesting. And like, that's like, it's such a better position to be in than like they want you specifically versus like, okay, well, you say you can do this for XYZ and they can do it for, 10% less. You're like,
it's the comparison game.
I don't ever want to be in the competition of like price matching someone. It's like, this is what my time is worth. This is what value I'm bringing to the table. And if you want that, that's cool. You can get the bargain version of that if you want, but that's not really the game I'm playing. So,
I think it's something we actually weren't recording yet when we were talking about that, but this concept of like a lot of people look at our business, our hustle and flow chart, and don't really know how we're making money. Yes, we have like a sponsor on our show at the front and the back of the show, but that's not like really big money or anything. That's just like, I mean,
covers the expenses basically.
It covers the expenses to run a podcast basically. But so most people look at our business and kind of go, yeah, I don't really know what they do, but what they're not seeing is the bigger picture. The platform we've built with our podcast has led to sort of equity deals and all sorts of stuff that we're doing behind the scenes, which is where most of our money comes from. And it seems like your business is a very, very similar concept where, a lot of people see you on social media and you've got like the Impossible brand, but beyond that, they may not totally know like what the business model is beyond that. And I don't think we were recording when we were talking about that yet. So I just wanted to like clarify that. But speaking of that, like you've built a really good brand in the Impossible brand. How did you ramp up that brand? How did you like get your initial traction and get people to start paying attention to that?
Yeah, so literally just writing forever, which is like not a great, So when I first started out, like I literally just writing about like going to this indoor triathlon, and it was like kind of a race diary, if nothing else. And I started realizing like people kind of care about you, but they also more importantly don't actually care about you. They care about themselves, and so
of course,
I was always talking about stuff like, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm doing. And it's somewhat useful. But if I was like, hey, here's how you could do it, that always got way more attention. And so what I slowly shifted was like this, this mix of what Joel is doing to like how this is relevant to you and how this can help. And, this is like still like 2010 or something like that. So like, blogs are really, really popular. I feel like a lot of people have shifted to podcasts, but like, you can take a lot of the same principles, but I would just go on other people's blogs and be like, can I write something for you guys? Can I comment on this? Can I like get back and forth with you? Super, super manual stuff. Like there's no like secret, but I had probably 20 blogs that I was like really, following on my RSS feeder, we used to have those. And, I just sort of, I was around enough that they started to notice me, and it wasn't like nefarious or like underhanded, but I was just like, hey, I actually really like this blog. I hope someday I could write a blog as cool as, 1/10 as cool as this. I just did that with a whole bunch of different people, and then did that over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And eventually just like, got to a capacity. I think I actually see this with startups a lot, where people are like, okay, well, yeah, like let's plan, November, our growth chart, we're just going to go like exponential. We're just going to put it in a plan and we're going to go exponential. And you're like, what you want to build is like consistent compound growth that builds on each other. And you want to increase your luck surface area. And like, especially with funded startups or whatever, like you might have a point where you do go exponential. But you don't really get to control when that is. And similarly, if you're doing your own bootstraps thing or your podcast or your blog, what you can control is consistency and like good, solid compound growth that's increasing your luck surface area. And every once in a while, you're going to have something hit off. And I've had that happen a few times. I had a TEDx talk on cold shower therapy. It's the worst shot TEDx talk of all time. I mean, it's got like 1 point. It looks like it's shot on a potato. It's terrible.
I didn't know you had it. I got to check it out.
yeah. And it was like before like this all Wim Hof thing and everything.
Yeah.
So now people are like watching it and they're like, oh, this is a Wim Hof. I'm like, it's kind of before he was the thing. Like it was
date. Yeah.
But it's got like 1.3 million views on it or something like that. Nice. And I've had, a couple different blog posts, both on, specific physical challenges that I've done, but also like I had one blog post where I ran into a guy in a coffee shop in Portland and he had this conversation with him and I just wrote about it because I thought it was super impactful and it like blew up. It got like a couple million hits in like a couple days. Wow. Was featured on like Oprah and like a bunch, like it was this crazy thing, but like I couldn't plot that into a growth chart somewhere, like it's just like I published that blog post because it was a Thursday and I had Thursday as a published schedule. And I was like, I've got this story. It's not really that good. I guess I'll put it out there. And I put it out there. Yeah. And it blew up. And so from a strategic standpoint, that's what kind of how I view a lot of this stuff. It's like you can engineer compound growth at a pretty impressive rate. And if you actually look at that over the long term, it's compound growth, incredible.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
But you're basically what you're trying to do is increase your luck surface area. So when those moments hit, or you get opportunities for them, they kind of take you to a next level, and then you continue the compound growth at that next level. And so
that's great advice, man. Yeah, because that's exactly what we say about podcasting. I mean, just like we've had podcasts in the past, they all failed because of lack of consistency and systems. But it's like this one, it's like 4 years old, never missed a beat. And we know like that's the promise to ourselves and our listeners that we're going to keep that thing up. And you're right. You never know when that like byproduct, like someone just catches wind of that guest or that topic, whatever you got. And then, Oprah picks it up or something. Like that's the extreme, but you never know. You just got to put it out there.
I think what you said there, the promise to yourself, like I think this is actually, it's consistency for your own stuff. But like, this is the reason why, when we talk about physical challenges or doing hard stuff is like, most people don't actually do the things they say they want to do because they can't trust themselves. Like they don't have the ability. They've broken their own promises to themselves so many times that they said, oh, I'm going to do this. And then they're like, I'm going to work out 3 times this week. And they go out, one time and then they're like, oh, it's okay. I tried really hard. It's like, you're breaking down trust with yourself that like the things that you can do, the things that you say you're going to do. And so I think, what you just said right there of like, you made a system, but more importantly, you just said like, we're going to do this no matter what. Right. And there's probably a bunch of, I don't know what your published date is, but like, there's probably that day of the week comes around and you're like, I don't know if we really want to do this one or not. And you're just like, we're going to do this.
We got to muscle them out. We're going to do it. Yeah, no, you're right, man. That's exactly how it is.
I mean, we've literally had days, I think, with this podcast where we're like, we need an episode for tomorrow. Let's record it.
Let's go.
And I'm sure one of you guys like, I don't know if we should, and the other one's like, get your butt in here. We're doing it.
At this point,
both ways each time.
4 years in now, it's just automatic. But yeah, you're right. Before it's systems, man. Systems are the lifeblood to keep our consistency up. And you have your own systems now, and probably too late in the episode to really dig into all that stuff. But dude, anything that Matt?
Well, there was one topic that we were talking about before we hit record that I know you wanted to chat about, which was like sort of managing energy.
I saw a post of something you put on Facebook, I think a while back, but it was about just take a look at what you're doing, and like if there are 3 to 5 things you're doing that just feels like they're just sopping all, taking all your energy, making you feel stressed or whatever, just figure out how to identify those and lean into the things that might be hard work but give you that energy. It's just kind of you post this, and it's in reference to Impossible in your brand, and similar to what you were talking about, but maybe if you could speak into that and how you approach life like that.
Yeah, I feel like the energy thing is like there's everybody's scared of like hard stuff because they think it's really hard, and they're like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to like get myself like to get up and like go after it, right? But the bigger issue is not necessarily like, I was actually talking to one of the guys that runs my meal planning business, and I was talking to him about this, and I'm like, if you look at like momentum and energy and how this plays out, like I don't want him to have easy stuff, but I want him to have stuff on his plate that's like, if it's accomplished, it's meaningful. Because if he has a really big challenge and it's a pain in the ass, and it's like, he's pulling his hair out and he's going crazy. He's doing this right now with like email deliverability. It's driving him crazy. But like, if he nails that, like, it's like he just absorbed all the energy of that challenge, and it's like gonna empower him to go do the next thing. Like if he finishes that thing and he nails it, and I think he's gonna like, it was a big, energy drain.
Yeah.
But like the amount of refueling that he's gonna get from that accomplishment is like off the charts. And I feel like a lot of people, they don't actually go after meaningful, difficult things. And so they settle for like these easy, simple stuff. Like, a classic example is like, oh, I got the inbox 0 today. That was really cool. I did all my emails, but like, does it even matter? And then you feel like, I felt like this a lot. Like I'm busy all the time. I'm doing all these things, but like, I'm not actually feeling energized about any of it. And so though I should go back and take a look at the post, but what I think you're talking about is basically this concept of like, if you have energy draining activities, get rid of them. Like I noticed this for me. Like I hate phone calls before noon. I will be terrible on these phone calls. And so I was always trying to just make it work and suck it up and be and then I just said like, I guess I'm just taking phone calls afternoon. Like that's the deal. And then I started doing that, and like, I'm better on the phone calls. I show up to every single one. Like I would just miss other phone calls sometimes because I was like, I don't have to. It's a terrible attitude. But
it's subconsciously something eating at you, and that's how it shows up. Normal. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I would just not do these things. And so I just got rid of those types of things. And like a lot of meetings you don't have to have. And I would just get like, I'd be in these things and I'd be mad about them. I'd be annoyed and I'd be like bummed coming out of it. And I just like, you just don't have to do that. And there's a lot of back and forth on, how much people can get away with that, but like, you probably don't have to do all the things that like are physically draining you all the time.
Yeah.
And so that's the first piece. And the second piece is like, instead of just doing like all these medium to small activities all the time, like pick out big things that you would actually care about. And if you care about those and they're interesting to you and they matter, they're gonna refuel you with way more energy than just like, hey, I did another day, I got to knock 0 and I
Groundhog Day tomorrow. That whole thing.
It's like there's way more energy to be had in other things. And so that's honestly that's a lot of what I've been doing the last 2 years is restructuring things. So I'm not just busy all the time. I'm not just doing a whole bunch of stuff, which I'm really good at. I'm good at doing a bunch of stuff, but I'm doing the stuff that I need to be doing. I'm doing the stuff that like is honestly not always really, really fun, but I'm always very happy to have done it. And so looking at it from, kind of that reverse perspective of like, if you finish this task, are you going to be happy about it? Email, probably you won't even notice. But like if I launch a new product by the end of the quarter, like that's like a different trajectory for the business. So like, yeah, I care about that a lot. So that's
like it.
maybe
That's
the angle that you're talking about.
100%, man.
And it sounds like the stuff that drains you is the exact same stuff that drains me. Like I tell Joe all the time, like I don't want to do calls before noon.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're all operating differently, so might as well identify what you feel in that, before, during, after. And like, really, like you said, the inbox zero thing is a perfect example. It's like, these are all people emailing you with their agendas, typically. And it's like, wait, let's prioritize these. Let's not just go down from top to bottom or bottom to top, however the hell you want to attack it, and do it right, for you.
Well, with the email or with the calls before noon thing, it's like I was so mad about this because this was like taking over my life, and every single time it came up, I was like, oh, do I want to do it now? And now, like, I kind of, at first I made like a hard rule, and now it just is like it just doesn't happen anymore. But I made the hard rule, like I don't take calls before noon, and I'm able to do availability stuff with Woven, which is one of the reasons I like the app. But it was basically able to make this so I could send custom availabilities to people, but like never, like no one's ever getting on my schedule before noon unless it's like my grandma, like
right.
She's like that's the only way people are getting on it. And then once I made that rule, that whole stress, like I never, like if someone's like, hey, can you do 8 a.m. tomorrow? I'm like, no, like the decision's already been made. I have a system for it. It's already operating. And then like, it's just kind of like a janitorial system for my stress. It's like, that's gone.
It's just one less thing, man. Let the systems handle it. You don't need to load, keep that low level stress. So
yeah,
love it. We killed the interview, man. There's a lot of good stuff. I was pumped up on this. There's so many places. I don't even know what you want to shout out, but obviously Impossible, your brand. How can people find you, follow you, and check out all your stuff?
Yeah. So you can check out me at Impossible HQ. We're impossiblehq.com, at Impossible HQ on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm at Joel Runyon on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We're doing a lot of stuff on YouTube lately. So pushing there. And if you want to check out the other, I can give you, just a list of links of the other businesses and companies I advise. But, my meal planning business is called ultimatemealplans.com. I have a mobility app called movelapp.com.
Right. I forgot about that one. Yeah. I used that for a little bit.
So we got a bunch of stuff, woven.com is the calendar, and then Drink Element, which, I'll send you guys a bunch, but it's a really good hydration drink mix. And,
cool.
You check that out.
Right on.
And we'll link all up. Yep.
Touche. Or jinx. Can't talk for the rest of this podcast. All right, Joe. Thank you, brother. Happy we made this work.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
That episode was impossible.
Impossible. Well, we did the impossible.
We did it. Actually, it wasn't impossible. It was normal day-to-day operations for us, but
we make it look like it should be impossible. Actually, no, that it should be possible, but it's impossible for many.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A
lot of folks struggle with getting their podcast out there, man.
It's true.
We can't take for granted what we just pulled off. We pulled off the impossible in the eyes of many.
Well, when you consider
really not that folks, we can help you out with that if needed.
When you consider that our very first podcast, the Online Income Podcast, back in 2010, made it 3 episodes.
Is that all it was?
We made it 3 episodes. Yep.
So we had 4. Well, you had 2 others than that I did not have.
Yeah. Well, so you and I, we had the Online Income Podcast, but we also had the Evergreen Wisdom Podcast. Yes. That one I think made it about 13 episodes.
Yeah, that was like a mindset-y type thing, and
yeah. And then in between those 2 podcasts, I did the Business and Blogs podcast. Business and Blogs, which is me interviewing people. Mm-hmm. That one I think made it to maybe 15-ish episodes.
And then you had Beyond the Hype.
I had Beyond the Hype with Josh.
Bartlett.
That one made it 13 or 14 episodes.
I see a trend.
And then I had Authority Insider, where Authority Insider made it about 60 episodes. And then there wasn't really a break. You and I just started doing Hustle and Flowchart instead.
Yeah, we were like, hey, this sounds more fun if there's 2 of us.
That's why if you ever go to the evergreenprofits.com site where the Hustle and Flowchart podcast lives, if you scroll down far enough, all the old Authority Insider interviews are there as well. Because that's
scrolling a while.
This is kind of like the continuation of that podcast, just with 2 hosts instead of 1.
Which ironically, I would say it's kind of
similar themes.
I mean, it's probably become more similar themes lately.
Yeah.
To the original show. But you know what, Joel? So this guy, yeah, you heard the story.
Yeah.
We knew he's just fascinating. He's always been we haven't honestly chatted with him much in the last like year and a half, 2, whatever it's been.
To be totally honest, I don't actually remember how the connection happened. I remember we were at Perry Marshall's event out in Naperville, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago, essentially. And we went to we met some guys at the event we were at. We're like, hey, let's all go to dinner.
Costanzo was there.
Brad Costanzo was there.
He was the ultimate connector who knew Joel before.
So Brad already knew Joel.
Yes.
Okay, because Joel met us at dinner, but he wasn't at Perry's event.
No. But a lot of people knew Joel, and we're like, and everybody was like, who's this? And we're like, who the hell is this Joel guy? Everyone's like, keeps pointing to Joel, like they're walking by our table and stuff. We're
there was people eating dinner at this restaurant going, I know this guy. I know, like people were coming up and shaking his hand. We're like, this guy must be like famous or something.
We're just having a steak and we're like, what's up, dude?
And so like, but we ended up at a table. Like, remember there was like at this steakhouse, there was one room that had like 30 people in it, but the room was full.
We were supposed to sit in
We were supposed to be sitting in that room. That room was full. So then me, you, Brad, and Joel, and there was one other guy that I can't remember his name, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There was 5 of us at this table because there wasn't enough room in that bigger room for us to go into. And so we ended up sitting around at this table for like 2 hours. I think it was the Capitol Grill. And
we shut down the place. We were they had to kick us out.
Yeah, they basically had to kick us out. And like Joel just like owned the table. Like we were all just so fascinated with his business and the things that he had done and the 7 ultra marathons and the all this crazy stuff that he's done with his life. And we were like we were just picking his brain for hours and hours and hours. And he just we just loved the conversation. When he was still in San Diego, we tried to get him on the show in San Diego. There was a bunch of scheduling conflicts. We never actually managed to get him on the show. And here we are 2 years later, finally interviewing him on the show.
Meant to be. Yeah. And like, honestly, we didn't skip a beat. He's exactly how I remember him. And it's interesting because about whatever that time was when we met with him, he was like in the thick of his lifestyle adventure with business and all that. But now he's, gotten more structured, which is cool. And I love to hear both sides of that. I think that's super fascinating.
Because that's what I think I was like most intrigued by when we were sitting around at dinner with him that night was he was talking about all of his travels and he was like, I'm kind of in a different city like all the time and I do these ultra marathons and I skydive and I do this and I do that and I run Impossible and I'm just kind of like all over the place all the time, constantly traveling. He was very like nomadic life. And we're like, well, how are you making the money to do this? And he's like, I got this business, it's running itself, and I got this business and it's kind of over here doing its thing. And I just put good people in place and all this stuff just kind of runs itself. And I just collect the money and live my lifestyle. And we were just like, this guy's got it figured out.
Yeah. I mean, it's just priorities, right?
Yeah.
Like those were his priorities at the time. He but he grew. He gave back in big ways. Like he said, built 7 schools on the back of these 7, what were they? They were ultra marathons. Yeah.
7 ultras on 7 continents. He's ran an ultra marathon on Antarctica.
Yep. With the penguins. Yeah. The penguins were yelling at him like, don't quit or else we're going to get
They were trying to hand him water, but they were just giving him cups of ice.
Like, this does not help. But like that stuff, but Andy think now, like and I love his perspective of, do hard stuff, but the stuff that's going to make you feel like if it's fulfilling and solving a big thing, like there's just so much you're going to consume in that process. And it is a fulfilling thing, like be it physical or mental, like it's an accomplishment, like launching something or doing a marathon. Like I remember when I did my first half and then a full freaking trail marathon. I didn't think I'd do it. And then I did. I was like, shit, I can keep running. Yeah. Like, okay. And then, you can translate that to other pieces of your life. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's a fascinating guy. And I'm so glad we got to finally get him on the show and chat with him about all this stuff. Like the other thing I wanted to talk about on the episode, but I don't even know like how, like what line of questioning to start, but like I kind of wanted to get into it with him about like, how does someone go and like run an ultra marathon, like knowing this is going to be the hardest thing I've ever done and it's going to suck and I'm going to hate it the entire time? Like, how do I convince myself to just go do that? Like, I don't even know what line of questioning to go down for that, but it's like what he's done, this impossible stuff. Like, how do you sort of transform your brain into going like, okay, that's going to be the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Fuck it, let's go. Like, how do you? I don't even know how to start like asking questions or how do you get to that mindset? It's got to be like sort of a stepping stone approach where you're doing something that you didn't think was possible. You did that. You're like, oh, what's something a little bit harder than that? But I don't know. Like,
well, I have a couple thoughts, and we don't know. But remember when Stephen Kotler was talking about when you're pushing yourself, it's like push yourself just far enough to grow, but not too far where you're going to have to like recreate your life, and your thinking. So it's like, so maybe, there's probably an element of that. And then when he was describing like reaching out to Perry and going to Hawaii, like he had a 2-day thing. I don't know how much money. It didn't sound like he had a lot of money at the time either. So that was a challenge.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like that was the domino. So if we think about like Jeff Woods from the one thing that we had on, he found the domino that would basically knock all the future dominoes down. So like he just reached out to Perry. He didn't have anything to lose there. Probably didn't even think he would get a reply in time.
Right.
And then here's Perry saying, okay, cool. Yeah, if you could be here on Friday, you're in. And you're in like around all these people, which it's probably scary as hell. But it's like, you know what? All you got to do is just hop on that plane. You already sent the message and the dude said yes.
Yeah.
It's like, just hop on the plane and see what happens. I mean, really, that's the domino if you think about it. In that scenario,
it was good. And then
it was good.
A big portion of this conversation that you and I both really enjoyed was talking about like how he gets involved in these sort of rev share equity deals, how he gets these deals flowing to us. I even sort of mentioned on the call that that's kind of what our business is now. We're building a platform in the form of this podcast and our YouTube channel, hustleandflowchart.tv. Between our podcast and our YouTube channel, we're trying to build this platform. And then this platform lends itself to less sort of tangible, like potential monetization strategies, right? It lends itself
looks murky, but it's
very systematic. Like everything we're doing, there was a clear vision 4 years ago, and we've actually seen the vision through. Like Joe and I, we have conversations all the time about like, holy crap, looking back 4 years ago, this is what we mapped out, and this is actually what we did.
Shoot, even further, man. I remember when we lived just north of San Diego, a place called Murrieta, Temecula and Murrieta. You and I shared an office, and we said we wanted to buy the San Diego Chargers at the time. Get out of here. Dead to me. And now they're rooting for the Dodgers. So it's like, them. Get out. Now you're more dead to me.
Sorry, Dodgers fans. We're Padre fans.
Oh, I'm not sorry. As we're both in Padre hats.
I'm sorry if you have to stop listening as a result.
I just hope the Padres have won past the series that's about to start today at the time of this recording.
Yep.
But the point being, we were up there and we were talking about this, how we wanted to buy that team, not because we want to run a football company. It's because that's just like, it's like a Gary Vaynerchuk moment. Yeah. It's a Ryan Moran moment with the Indians.
Yeah, it was a North Star. It was something where like, if we had this giant goal out in front of us that we never really thought was like actually attainable, but like it was an impossible goal to ever possibly hit,
but think about
that
everything
would sort
else,
of steer the direction of everything preceding it.
And the business model back then, we said, and we didn't know how the hell we'd get there or what we would do to get there, because we were messing around with crypto and stuff at the time. I remember we had the ticker of Bitcoin when it was like $5, and we're like,
now we're kicking ourselves
way too expensive. $5, can't afford that. It wasn't actually $5.
I think it was like 200 or something, but
like it's still stupid money.
Yeah.
But I just remember the business we wanted to create back then was not, I have a service, I sell service.
It wasn't courses either.
It wasn't it wasn't a direct sale where we are the ones creating or marketing and fulfilling. Like we never wanted to do that, even though that's something we kind of fell into. I mean, you got to think it's like through osmosis of the community we're around. A lot of them are minded that way. But now think about like how we've literally mapped, like have created this business that we wanted to create then. We had like a murky vision. We knew like money would come from somewhere, from investments and things, probably small, large, short, long term, you know? And then now think of the folks we mentioned so many names on here, like Roland, Frazier, Joel, Joel actually, Joel thinks like that, you know, and I didn't know that actually. Jay Abraham, Schramko, J.M. Schramko, Brad Costanzo. Yep. I mean, like that's what it's just an upgrade in thinking, or at least it's a different way of thinking.
Yeah. And it's essentially like kind of an extension of the affiliate marketing stuff we do. It's
100%.
Just, instead of getting like a percentage of the sales we make, we try to now work deals where we get a percentage of the whole pie.
I just still remember this thing like Roland said. And I think it was just like a random meeting for Unicorn Equity, you know, and it's like, you know, the problem is with marketers is people, the marketers think like marketers. They're not thinking like a business, like a bigger business thinker and how things work in that level. And I think just combining those two superpowers, and probably more that I don't know about yet, are absolutely fascinating. That's exactly what he's doing.
Yep, exactly.
So, cool.
And we wanted to mention it again. I think we've mentioned it in some past episodes and stuff. But if if you've got like a business, a SaaS company, like a cool idea, like, you know, he does like meal plans and, you know, he's
doing
e-commerce, he's doing all sorts of stuff. We're kind of looking to have like a portfolio ourselves of companies that we're working with.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. I mean, we've started building a portfolio. We've got a portfolio of companies that we work very, very closely with. We're looking to add to that portfolio. So if you've got some like real innovative companies that you're listening to this going, you know, leveraging Matt and Joe's platform might be a beneficial thing, you know, reach out.
Yeah. No, it's those are the conversations we love, and if there's something there, cool. If not, we'll point you in another direction.
Exactly.
So, yeah, lots of good stuff. Easy webinar.
How do you spell easy?
I was drinking yerba mate during this, and a little piece of leaf snuck through.
Yeah.
So Easy Webinar is our go-to tool, but it's also a ton of folks that listen. They have written and told us getting started with webinars, this is the tool they've used, and also just like for pros.
I hear it's pretty easy.
It is, and
it does webinars.
And you can do any type of webinar.
Yeah.
Easily.
Automated.
Live.
Hybrid, where it looks like it's live, but it's a video recording.
I believe I think that they have like a built-in live basically thing that is like almost Zoom-like in a way. So
you could replace Zoom with this if you wanted.
You actually could. Like maybe if you don't want to deal with Zoom's craziness these days, which we do on our podcast days often, and I hope, this might be a better solution even on that front. So we got a deal for you.
Webinar.com/hustle.
Yes. Up to 25% off depending on the plan. Go get it. We're hooking you up. easywebinar.com/hustle. And hey, you know, go share the show around with your friends, with your business peeps that you think would enjoy Joel. We would love that and appreciate it. We love you. See you next time.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. Before taking the time to listen, we want to give you something a little bit special. Every single episode that we do, we actually have somebody on our team take notes. We basically have a Cliff's Notes version of every episode where you can go and find all of the tips and tactics that they laid out, all of the resources that they laid out, all the good stuff from this episode. We actually have a nice simple notes version that you can find on our website. So go to evergreenprofits.com, find this episode that you just listened to, and give us your email address and we'll send you the notes. Thanks for listening.